So on 21st January 2018, an Australian family made an extraordinary historical discovery on Wedge Island, about 180 kilometers north of Perth. While walking on the sand dunes, they recovered what looked like, just like a lovely old brown bottle, fit to enhance the family's bookcase. What they stumbled upon instead in opening it was the world's oldest message in the bottle, discovered 132 years after it was tossed overboard. The message was dated June 12, 1886. And it had been thrown overboard from the German sailing bark Paula, 950 kilometers from Western Australian coast on its voyage from Cardiff in Wales to Makassar in Indonesia. Between 1864 until 1933, thousands of bottles were thrown overboard from German ships, each containing a form on which the captain would write the date, the ship's coordinates, and details about its route as part of an experiment by the German Naval Observatory to better understand global ocean currents. Usually associated with individual human attempts to communicate while in an emotional or physical distress, the message in the bottle has come to represent one of the iconic examples of long-distance, deep-type communication. And the term message in the bottle has historically been applied in techniques of communication that do not literally involve a bottle on a water-based method of convenience. I could not resist using the serendipitous news of the discovery to introduce my paper, given the transnational nature of this example of long-distance communication. I mean, it left Cardiff, went to Australia, it's a bottle of gin, all things very dear to me. So I said, this is the opening of my paper. But of course, it is because in this paper I will examine how the use of different types of transnational long-distance communication, that is social such as Facebook, Twitter or Instagram, VoIP tools such as Skype, and multi-platform mobile phone messaging service such as WhatsApp, Viber, Messenger or Google Hangouts, has made an impact on the experience of Italian mobility in Wales in the past 10 years. Here is the outline. So I'm gonna give you, it's divided in three sections, and I'm gonna give you a brief historical background of Italian mobilities in Wales, a description of the first person to obtain, my paper, I don't know why, but it's all in one word. So it's really, I just printed it, and it's really, so I'm gonna give you a brief historical background of Italian mobility in Wales, a description of the first responses obtained in the inquiries, and I don't have that many responses, so you will have to, it's really work in process, but it's getting there. And so, some preliminary conclusions. So let's travel to Wales. Italians represent one of Wales' oldest and largest migrant groups, one that has carved a special place in Welsh collective memory and popular culture. I don't know if you know much about Italians in Wales, so I'm hoping you don't, so this would make any sense. Good. So Italian migration to Wales dates back to the 1890s, when itinerant organ grinders from the Apennines mountains near Parma and Piacenza, notably from the town of Bardi and the surrounding villages in the Val del Ceno, moved from London to South Wales, attracted by its fast-growing economy. The increase in economic wealth brought by the coal mining industry in this region contributed to create the right conditions for the valleys around Cardiff and Swansea to become places for opening small catering businesses. So this is where Bardi is, and I must say that hardly any Italians not from that region know where Bardi is. When you come to Wales, you say, Bardi, what the hell is that? And then you learn about Bardi. So ascribing to the formula of the temperance bar, which became very popular in Wales from the end of the 19th century, this establishment served no alcohol, but offered instead coffee and hot beverages, homemade ice cream, cakes and other treats, and cigarettes. They also offered a warm, clean and refined place with elegant, comfortable tables and chairs, smartly dressed staff, fancy decor, a retreat basically from the industrial grime of the outside world of the coal mines in South Wales. The cafes acquired a sort of home-from-home quality, as there was no obligation to purchase goods in order to sit at the cafe. These are some of the old photographies of the cafes, and some of these names are the names that are still in Wales, and you can recognize them immediately as Italians' name: Rabaiotti, Conti, Antoniazzi. But the real name for the coffee is Bracchi, and they became known as Bracchis. So the Italian bars were called Bracchis. Being named after Giacomo Bracchi, established the first Italian refreshment business in Newport in the 1890s. With the abundance of cheap energy, that's coal, affordable premises and the lack of competitive service sector, the Italian cafe trade expanded rapidly, and by the 1920s there was scarcely a village in the valleys of South Wales which did not have its own Italian cafe. By 1939, there were over 336 Italian-owned firms in South Wales. In some villages, there were even 4 of them in the same street. I mean, this was the demand and the importance of them. The Italian cafe was such a feature of South Wales social life that the most popular Welsh cartoon, called Fireman Sam, throughout the 80s and 90s, featured an Italian cafe keeper, Bella Lasagna, among its characters. And this is Bella Lasagna here. And she speaks like this, and so she's quite funny. So in the geographical division of social spaces, the Italians, and later the Welsh Italians, occupy to an extent, and to an extent still occupy, the feeding sector, which might also be interpreted as the sector of comfort, of well-being, physical and spiritual nutrition. As a result of different combined migrant waves, the Italian population in Wales peaked as to 4,607 in 1961. So quite a lot, and Italians became the second largest non-British migrant group after the Irish, constituting 11% of the total foreign-born population. Yet it seems that Italians have historically been harassed and discriminated to a lesser extent than other migrant groups. One reason for this could be that they were scattered and generally not seen as posing a threat to the industrial job market, a significant number of them being involved in the catering sector. With more than 40,000 Italians of first, second and third generations, Wales has got one of the largest Italian communities in the UK. So I'm now looking at the mobility and the technological turn that Loretta spoke about yesterday. So we're kind of going from the 60s, 70s to what's happening now. You know, as has happened in Melbourne here in the whole of Australia, a lot of young Italians have moved all over the world, and a lot of them came to London and Cardiff. So social change derived by both a rapid globalization and a gradual economic slowdown at local and national levels have resulted in an unprecedented flight of young professionals from Italy to the United Kingdom in the past decade. In 2015, more Italians are believed to have moved to the UK than to any other European country. Until 2016, until the 2016 Brexit referendum, the numbers rose steadily each year, and though it is difficult to give an exact number, as many Italians who come to live to Wales do not necessarily enroll on the IRA lists, the Italian embassy in London estimated that 600,000 Italians were resident in the UK. Once the when Brexit happened, that has started, you know, increasingly lowering the number. So these are part of the so-called new migration, that is, individuals who migrated post-2000. This new mobile generation from Italy is characterized by youngish, educated, often highly skilled migrants and students, so completely different from you know, the Welsh Italians. In the UK, London has become the symbol of this new flow because it presents two main advantages. It is relatively close to Italy and hence easily and cheaply reachable by Italians. When Ryanair arrived in Italy, and especially in Sardinia in 2000, which allowed us, you know, to move from the islands quite easily, we a lot of people hate Ryanair, but for us it was you know, called Santa Ryanair, Saint Ryanair, for saving us from the isolation. So and that definitely helped, you know, the cheap fares. So Italian citizen, basically, it was easy to go to London, a place like London, because you only need, it was a passport and the possibility of living there. Cardiff, of course, offers many of the advantages that a smaller town can offer to newly arrived. A cheap cost of living, the cultural advantages of the youngest capital in Europe, and the social bonus of an existing strong sense of community, relatively easy to access and be part of. And here I'm thinking both of the Welsh community and the Italian ones. Italians are a quite strong presence in the Welsh capital, and Italian can be heard almost everywhere around town, being the second or third continental European language spoken in Cardiff after Polish and Spanish and Portuguese. There is a Facebook group called Italians in Cardiff, Italians in Swansea, and I belong to most of them. And until Brexit, there were at least two Italians a day who would write, and they had just arrived to Cardiff. In contrast with the Welsh Italians, many of these individuals do not necessarily intend to remain in Cardiff and want to keep contact with both Italian society in general and the local community in which they grew up. Social networks such as Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, VoIP tools like Skype, and multi-platform mobile phone messaging services such as WhatsApp and Google Hangouts have proved to be both most useful and successful in achieving that. So, very preliminary quantitative and qualitative data from about 35 Italian non-national in Wales. So far I have handed out 65 questionnaires and interviewed only 6, who were mostly living in Cardiff or for over a period of 3 to more than 10 years. And so some of my preliminary conclusions come from, you know, having had this 35 questionnaires answered to, and so this is the data that I've collected, and the people that were interviewed were recruited through word of mouth, friends, or being friends of friends, or through other fortuitous approaches. Especially, I mean, the fact that I've set up the Italian Cultural Center has helped in finding people who will volunteer for this. So this data has provided evidence of a common trend that their social media practices enable them to maintain family and kinship contacts across long distance, to create extensive personal networks, and to participate in the national debates of their home societies through transnational associations. A lot of the things that Loretta mentioned yesterday and have come out, and of course I am one of those youngish Italians who have moved to Wales and have no intention of staying there. So although it's my home, I have a family there, I'm hoping one day to leave it. I use all these social networks to both keep in touch with what's happening in Italy, but also with my family. And you know, I wouldn't go as far as kissing the screen like that child did. You know, the Skype kind of kiss. But I certainly use it to when my niece and nephew were younger, I used to sit with them and do their homework, you know, from Cardiff. So this sort of things definitely did happen. So I could relate to a lot of things that Loretta was saying yesterday. So I'm trying to give you some ideas of, you know, how these social media is helping to basically live in between the two communities rather than just in one. So when asked if online interactions have facilitated a virtual community that mimic a traditional face-to-face community, the general response was yes. Though in most cases the interviewees also interacted both face-to-face with the Italian community for leisure and familial activities, and the Welsh one for work, confirming this way the ability to draw from and contribute to both social and network capitals. Medium to low level of interaction in network sociability, that is, individual participation in a number of different networks in which the members may not know each other. Italiani Cardiff, for example, or Italiani Swansea are two of them. They change it somehow. You know how migration often happened in a snowball scheme operation. So the snowball scheme operation where you call your family, you know someone, and you migrate over there because you know that someone. Now it's mostly happening through Facebook. Even if you don't know someone, you just write, you just get yourself accepted in that group. Let's say you want to migrate to Cardiff, and you go and you get accepted in the group, and you start asking before you leave, you know, if there is a job, if there is a room where you can stay. And so that snowball factor, migration factor, happens now, you know, online rather than you know, via letters or phone calls. I won't be able to read this, so I'll have to read it from here. Sorry, this is, I really don't know what happened. So although the decreasing cost of travel enables them to more frequent physical visit home than in the past, 2 decades of electronic communication remains a vital resource to maintain their links with their home community. This has come out over and over and over, you know, the idea that is a vital way in which, you know, they are happy to leave Italy for various reasons, but there's also that idea that they can come back anytime they want, and they can also speak to their family and their friends and keep that relationship going via these social networks. And then too early in the research to say what the social consequences are. However, the twofold international geographical mobility and digital mobility has completely reversed the twofold absence characterization of previous experience of migration and mobility. So basically the fact that you either belonged or actually you didn't belong to the community in which you arrived to, and you didn't even belong to the community that we left. With this, with the use of social mobility, you can actually somehow belong to both, or at least not belong. Let's put it that way. Sorry, I have to try. So I'm moving down to. I'm happy to answer. I mean, there's a lot in that it's not there, but I'm happy to answer to a lot of questions. But I'll just. How much time do I have?
A couple minutes.
Okay. So I'll just go. I'll just do my conclusions, and then we'll. I'm happy to answer questions. If I could read the conclusions, it's all one word, so it's going to be really difficult.
Improvise.
Improvise. no, there's no way I can read this. So basically, through these Facebook and through all these social media, it's really it has really brought out the idea of transnational identity. It has really given a way in which this transnationality and this has managed to feed on these virtual identity, and they also I contend that they allow the constant generation of new rhizomic attachments, or moorings that you need when you get deterritorialized and then reterritorialized to another space, and it's the only probably one of the only ways in which you could survive, or vital to survival, in the kind of liquid modernity that Bauman has theorized. Yes, I think I'll stop it there.